I'm just going to start and just see how it goes from here. Ladies and gentlemen, did you really think I'd miss this fool? Did you really think I'd miss this one? Let me introduce you to someone. Let me introduce you.
Mother of the free.
Brilliant. Listen.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Let's play it again. Yeah, because remember the controversy?
Mother of the free.
Who's idiot faces up in the middle of that? Oh, you might have recognised him. You might have seen him recently. This poor excuse, this streak of piss was on my TV 7 days ago and pissed a lot of people off. Of course he's going to put, look, he's got a MAGA hat in the background, he's got a Union Jack. What did I say in the last video? What did I say? I said, we don't define our narrative, right? White supremacy, let me just be a bit more blatant with it the second time around. White supremacy is going to find their boy and he's going to do it and he's going to argue the point badly. And right on time, here comes this thing on Good Morning TV. So bad, he made Piers Morgan seem practically liberal and left wing. That's how idiotic this thing is. It's called Calvin Robinson, and as far as I've seen, I've done a little bit of an internet search. He's popped up about 3 months ago. Have a look. Popped up about 3 months ago. Young conservative. So he's going to represent your best interest, of course he is. And what's he on TV talking about? Well, the diversity performance I wasn't going to touch because it's very simple. Like, the only people that complained about that were the racists, and more often than not, or more likely, they hadn't even seen the George Floyd video. They were just being racist because they saw a lot of black people doing something. And like, oh, you're that pissed off about 8 seconds. What about the 8 minutes? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. It's all rabidly racist stuff that people are just trying to get away with. What did I say? Now's the time that they're wheeling out the coons en masse. Here we have a coon, okay?
Routine. So welcome to you both.
Listen to this.
Calvin, you agree that perhaps they were biting off more than they could chew, but...
A dance performance, theming their dance performance is biting off more... But who are you to say... So much arrogance, so much assumed... control right from the off. But anyway, let's get into it.
To have so many complaints, as Ashley Banjo suggests, is a little bit more than a critique.
Obviously, because there is something else to it. Now remember, I didn't want to really touch this dance routine, Ashley Banjo and blah blah blah, because I've got my opinions there already, but it looks like they've tried to do something right on. Yeah, good luck to them. They're a dance outfit, but who's going to get offended? Well, we only know the racists are going to be going to get offended, but none of them are going to be stupid enough to put their face in front of the public and defend the point. So, what do we get? We get a placebo coon. We said our guests are this Calvin guy and David Grant. And I've got to make a confession to make. About 20 years ago, when I was going out with my Danish girlfriend, I had this Danish girl, and we were, you look for things in society. Back then, I'll say right now, I was a coon. But 20 years ago, I had a Danish girlfriend, and we tried to be quite, upwardly mobile. And you look around at the people that look like you, and at the time, yeah, David Grant, who's guest number 2. David Grant was like someone I don't want to say look up to, but I kind of emulated him in a way. I mean, the guy came with a certain amount of class. He was always well presented. He was always very articulate, and I was a big fan of David Grant. And when I say a big fan, I wasn't that much of a fan of David Grant because this is his stuff back in the day.
You bring it back to me. Love, find a way.
That's old David Grant, yeah? Sorry, let me me turn that down a bit. That's old David Grant. That's David Grant when I was growing up, right? But you know, things changed a bit, didn't it, David? Like David Grant got married to Carrie Grant, and the Grants, you know, they were living very well. You know, the guy's a songwriter, musician. You know, they had their house padded out in the way that I wanted my house padded out. He's got two beautiful mixed-race children. You know, I've got a mixed-race daughter. And, you know, you look at people... Right, sorry, let me just stop that for a second. You look at people in society when you're out and you think, yeah, okay, I want to live my life. I want to end up looking like that. So... You know, my guilt, you know, my confession. I did used to look up to David Grant a decades ago, maybe. But certain things happened in my life, and certain things changed. But you know, he's not the blackest man in the world now. Not the pro-blackest man in the world now. Is he? David Grant is not. Is he really? Look. Sensible man, exactly, but you know, he's not exactly. You can't. How are you going to use David Grant as control? David Grant is safe control because in the minds of the British public, they immediately associate David Grant with his wife. He's married to a white woman, so therefore, David Grant, he can't be that extreme, can he? I mean, he can't be that extreme. So we're already using David Grant as our control. I'll give it to David Grant. He did quite well. I love it. I'm not. You know, yeah, I got a soft spot for David Grant from back in the day, but you know, I felt that we're gonna get to some shit, right? But the reason I showed you this video earlier on, right, of who we're dealing with here. Oh, damn! Let me get this out of the way. Get that out of the way, right? This is our main fool right here, right? But he's on a conservative talk show with who's that? Who's that on the right? Who's that? Oh, is that Lawrence Fox? My God. I believe it is Lawrence Fox. Oh my! Not the Lawrence Fox that was on Question Time, exuding white privilege to such an extent that even his peers are out. Oh wait, is that the same Lawrence Fox that got dumped by his girlfriend just after doing the show because she couldn't believe how insensitive? Lawrence stated that he's not denying privilege and he's not denying racism. Hold on a second, let me shrink this down. Right, so yeah, I mean, for those of the people who live in the UK, right, for those of you who know, Lawrence Fox's sister goes out with Richard Ayoade. So you go on TV and you run your mouth like that, being a damn fool, and guess what? It was a little bit too close to home, wasn't it? Anyway, what happened? Right, during the controversial Question Time, right, Lawrence insisted he wasn't racist. Okay, yeah, you can insist all you like, but you know, the audience member, you know, to the audience member happens to be black. That you can't help what he is. He was born like this. It's an immutable characteristic, right? So to call me white male privileged is to be racist. You're being racist. So like he was on TV recently doing that same stupid shit where you get caught out for your racism, so you turn around and you go, no, you're racist because you called me a white man, so if I'm white, then you must be the one that... I'm seeing a bit of that about, and it's really pathetic. But Lawrence also previously revealed that he once dumped his girl for being too woke. Oh, the irony. And then, so he recently got dumped for going on TV and talking shit. Now we've got I mean, I do my little courtesy little search to find out who I'm talking about, and I've got this guy on some conservative talk show host with Lawrence, wherever it is, Fox, right? So you're already not off to a good start. But you know, the eagle-eyed people in the background were looking at the "Make America Great Again" and the Union Jack in the background, and we're like, look, this is a coon. We haven't even got into it too tough, and already let me play.
Isn't it? There's something rather nasty going on here.
I think it's making a statement, isn't it? Because first of all, I'm a big fan of diversity. I remember when they won, and it was a great...
As I heard, oh yeah, by the way, big up the Eddie Nestor show. I'll put some information. Eddie Nestor's back and he's doing a show. He's got Angela Lamar and he's got a couple of other people on there. And let me just steal something. And they said, how dare this guy bust an afro? How dare you?
Great moments when we were a lot younger. But I think what they tried to do was well-intentioned but very misguided. And
Well, like, who are you to say that that's misguided? Who the fuck are you to say it's... But anyway, remember, there's going to be mitigation. They don't know how they... It was well intentioned, but it wasn't really well thought out. He 100% is speaking for white people. He's not speaking for any black people that I know, for the most part. He is speaking to the closet racist who finds themselves unable to articulate their racism without offending someone, because that's impossible.
the British public have said, you know what, we don't want this.
The British public have said, you know what, we don't want this. It is a discernible sign that a large number of the British public are racist. Really.
Was pre-watershed. It was very violent. It was portraying police brutality and the kneeling on necks.
Pre-watershed, it was very violent. It's a dance routine. But remember, he has to articulate an opposing view for his racist handlers, the one who holds the leash. I wonder who holds his leash. Might need to do a little bit of digging, because he's come from nowhere. Do a Google on this guy, right? Google this guy. His name is Calvin Robinson, right? Google him, and don't just 100% go with what I'm saying. Use me as a springboard to go off and do a little bit of research for yourself, so you can make up your own opinion. Let's carry on.
And taking the needless subjugation. It was all steeped in critical race theory, essentially, which is this whole myth of white supremacy and
sorry, hold on a second. Sorry. Let's go back a bit. Maybe that was a little bit quiet for you.
But to have so many complaints, as Ashley Banjo suggests, is a little bit more than a critique, isn't it? There's something rather nasty going on here.
Were you saying, Kuhn?
I think it's making a statement, isn't it? Because first of all, I'm a big fan of diversity. I remember when they won, and it was a great moment when we were a lot younger. But I think what they tried to do was well-intentioned but very misguided, and the British public have said, you know what, we don't want this. It was pre-watershed. It was very violent. It was,
It was dark. Okay, just so I already said that.
portraying police brutality and
Oh, how dare you do that? I think that was the point.
the kneeling on necks and taking the needless subjugation. It was all steeped in critical race theory.
What is critical race theory? What's critical race theory? I think he's going to explain.
Which is, this whole myth of white
Myth.
supremacy and
The myth of white supremacy. Okay, to an extent I'll roll with that, because I'm rolling with it on a high intellectual level, not on his level.
white people being
And look at that. Here's the joke.
oppressors,
They-
and black people
they
being
muted the
victims.
dance.
It's not a good message to be sending at 8 o'clock on a in primetime television.
They even muted it as though maybe there was something slightly underhand and violent and we can't show it on morning TV. I just remember the last blog I did was on that chalky-lipped guy and the lyrics of Land of Hope and Glory. I started by showing you this guy came in singing Land of Hope and Glory with Lawrence Fox as a sort of, right, on another conservative radio station or blog station. So he knows what side his bread's buttered. If we don't get our own... And the funny thing is, think about this. Why is Good Morning Britain going to him to talk about black stuff when Eddie Nestor's just started up again? Sorry, Sir Eddie Nestor has just started up again. And you got Angie Lamara, and you got other... Oh, what's the other black guy's name? Oh, I forgot the other guy's name. That's with him. He was young. I see him as a young face. I can't remember. When I find out his name, I'll say it before the end. But, guys from the real McCoy kind of coming back. And, they're alive. They've lived everything in the city of London. They're steeps. They have a track record in media. Why don't you go and ask them? No, we're going to this faded thing.
I'm off it. I've seen more violence on EastEnders. Honestly, what they were doing, they did a 4-minute performance that talked about the coronavirus pandemic, about love, about unity, and in part of it, they depicted the seminal moment, apart from the virus of the year, which was the appalling death of George Floyd at the knee of a police officer. I think if you're genuinely offended by what you saw on that show, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
Not
there
you
is.
personally, although if you were.
No, there is something wrong with him. He's cooning, and cooning flies in the face of common logic to such an extent. Watch the role reversal where Piers Morgan actually looks like the rational one.
Offended, I would include you. It's like, I just feel like, what are you offended by if you think about it logically? They were depicting a real event in which we all watched a man dive for 8.5 minutes. This is something all the kids watching would have known about. Their parents certainly knew about it. And when you say Britain rejected this and protested, only 20,000 people.
That's a very good point, Piers. Oh my God! Oh, even in the making of this blog, as though this faded thing is speaking on behalf of the British public, and Piers so surgically makes the point. It was only 20,000. I mean, it's still a significant number. On the one hand, we're saying it's only 20,000. You're trying to rope in the whole British public here. But on the other hand, watch this. They're also going to bait and switch, and that 20,000 is going to be the largest ever complaint ever made. So a lot of bait and switch. Basically, they're being devils, right? But to be a devil, you have to play off the truth, right? And the truth is, this guy doesn't speak for all of England.
Actually, have bothered to protest. The show was watched by over 5 million.
But you can't have it both ways and say only this many people protested and then say actually it's the most protested TV program in a long time.
We just did.
You can. It can be both. It was the most protested about show in terms of Ofcom complaints. But I'm on about 15 of the Ofcom top 50 for shouting at government ministers.
He'd know.
Doesn't
Piers
mean
would
I'm
know.
wrong. Does it?
Well, for me, it's not that they highlighted Black Lives Matter. It's they seem to promote it with the kneeling and the chanting and the fist pumping and all of this. They're promoting
Which bit
Black
did you
Lives Matter.
personally take?
With the kneeling and the chanting and the fist pumping. Wow, this is some old style. This is like some 1970s coonery.
Exception to. I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, I do take exception to it because it's a far left organisation.
No, which bit? Which bit were you personally offended by?
I was personally offended by them promoting Black Lives Matter to young people on national television,
But there
which
are
is
two.
a
But there are
movement
two
that
aspects
stokes
to
racial
Black.
tensions.
Right, but there are two aspects to Black Lives Matter. One is an organisation called Black Lives Matter, which does have some policies which I personally don't agree with. Defunding the police and abandoning capitalism and so on. But they're an organisation. But there's also, as you know, there's a hashtag movement, Black Lives Matter, which has gone around the world, which simply denotes, if you support it, that you support racial equality and an end to racial injustice. And I'm struggling to understand what part of that diversity performance actually offended you, given that we all know that Black Lives Matter, the hashtag, that's what it stands for.
Good point,
I
Piers.
think you're compartmentalising this hashtag and the movement. It is all one thing. And if you're promoting it, you're promoting the idea that we should see everything through the eyes of racism.
Calvin,
and
I
actually,
think-
But when you're a black person and everyone is being racist to you, there is no other way to see it. He is white in his brain, using his eyes to see the world as a white man. There's a lot of this about. We already know what this is. It's a bit boring, but I have to address it because what did I say? I said they were going to be wheeling the coons out en masse, right? I said that.
I don't think that people do conflate the two. I mean, some people may, and some people, when they hear the phrase Black Lives Matter, might think of a particular group with particular political aims. But I think most people understand that there's something very powerful and important in the phrase Black Lives Matter, which came into its own.
Bearing in mind that I'm not a fan of Black Lives Matter from the point of view that black men aren't in the leadership. Black Lives Matter don't promote stable family unit, and you can find that on their website. I'm the person that doesn't agree with Black Lives Matter because of all the surreptitious misandry in the background. Yeah, the anti-man hating stuff. That's why I'm not a fan of Black Lives Matter. But he's going to be I don't even want to use the term because it was almost racist. Oh gosh, as I haven't been already.
This year.
Even the phrase itself is troublesome, isn't it? I would say that all lives matter, all lives are sacred. To kind of say that Black Lives Matter is separating people.
Right, now, obviously, he's swallowed wholeheartedly the completely racist talking point. Now, from this point, I expect Piers to destroy him. I've seen this once, and I had a massive freak out. And that was earlier on in the week, and my daughter suggested I do a blog on it. So it's been a while. I sat down, I'm going over this the second time. I think I've got 1 or 2 videos queued up that will help me make my point as if I really needed help making the point. I think everyone could see a moon coon when we're looking at one, and boy, this guy, boy, where did they find him? But as you can see, he's just recently been made, so we're calling this one early.
Pull out by the colour of their skin. That's not what we want
Well,
to
let
do.
me finish the sentence for you, which is Black Lives Matter as much as white lives. Is actually
Who
the
would
point
say? Who
of
would
it.
say they don't, Piers? I don't know anyone
Actually,
that would say
I
they
think
don't.
A lot of people would, and a lot of people practice that, which is why black people are getting killed. But you have to understand, this guy is almost like he literally has fallen out of a tree into London. Because I've got one or two things that I'm going to play you in terms of the history of what motivates me or what fires me. When individuals like this come along, they are a real danger to us, horrific danger to us. He's getting by spewing white supremacy with a little frisson of blackness on his a little frisson of melanin. Okay, it's little more than a frisson busting that afro. This is a psychologically destroyed person. This is the mixed race guy that grew up with his white mum and probably white racist foster stepdad. Clearly, he didn't grow up around black people and end up like this. You don't grow up around black people, end up being this self-hating, spewing racist rhetoric.
it's inarguable that if you look at racial injustice around the world, it is inarguable that the criminal justice system in America, for example, which caused George Floyd to die, is skewed against black people in a way it's not against white people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've worked and lived out there for years. It's inarguable.
Even Piers has to look. Our white supremacy is doing it at the moment. What are you talking about? Like we're killing these niggas by the bushel. Like that's what I'm hearing from Piers, actually.
This is the most diverse, tolerant, and inclusive nation in the world. This is a fantastic place to live. We don't live in America, Piers. You know, Black Lives Matter is a different thing over there. It's very violent. There are
Why
riots.
shouldn't
There are
Black
shootings.
Lives Matter in this country?
I don't think we need to bring that drama over here. We need to look at the Martin Luther King approach of being colourblind.
Gah! Martin Luther King, the one who they shot, the one who the American Supreme Court found the American government to be guilty of that assassination, that Martin Luther King. Okay, just as long as we know that we're talking about it. So, you know, America got found guilty, the American government was found guilty of the assassination. They got taken to the Supreme Court. America was found guilty of the assassination of Martin Luther King. It's horrific. It really hurts my heart. But, like, considering what he just said, anyone who's lived in this country for more than 5 minutes is going to be so outraged because of the history that has defined us, the history that's molded us, the history that's really hurt us. Let me just give you a quick instance of what I'm talking about. And this is the other brother from the real McCoy, Leo Muhammad. Quick interjection from Leo here.
Carnival should never be cancelled because 61 years ago, on the 17th of May, 1959, an innocent 32-year-old black carpenter walking late at night or in the early hours of the morning, minding his own business, was suddenly set upon in a racist attack and murdered, stabbed with a stiletto knife for no other reason than being black.
Listen.
The reports of his murder became national and international headline news.
We've been through this before.
The police, using the same tactics and pattern of behavior that they would employ years later after the murder of Stephen Lawrence, obfuscated and played down the motive behind the attack and murder as a possible attempt at robbery gone wrong, or just general hooliganism. It's not my language.
Yeah, that's the great Leo Muhammad there, and that was just him speaking to the public around Carnival and letting everybody know the origins of Carnival. The origins of Carnival are steeped in racial attacks and racial murders. When my dad was a kid, when my dad was a young man, Notting Hill was the area of the mass race riots. Notting Hill was the area where the white kids used to come from Southampton and from Essex on the weekend. They used to come up by train to come to Notting Hill to try and beat black people to death, to try and fight black people. Incidentally, Notting Hill is also where the first UK black militias were formed. I don't know if you knew that, but the World War II vets, the black World War II vets living in Notting Hill formed militias that would patrol certain areas to keep people safe, because it was open season where white boys, the Teddy boys, right, used to come from all around and get together to come to Notting Hill to fight black people. I know that. This is another thing I know. This is another thing that formulated my thinking. Yeah, New Cross Fire. It was a pivotal moment, culminating Black People's Day. Action and march that brought London to a standstill. Yeah, 18th of January 1981. The blaze killed 13 young black people. One survivor died by suicide 2 years later. They had been celebrating the 16th birthday of Yvonne Ruddock in the upper floors of their flat. Yeah, that's right. That's what happened. We had something called the New Cross Fire, which I just showed you earlier. And you know, we did our marching. We went into central London, and here's a first-hand account. Listen to this.
When the march is coming along Fleet Street, which was at the time the headquarters of our newspapers,
the ones who write about us,
and you've got the reporters hanging out the windows calling us monkeys and go home. The same reporters that are writing the stories. I lay in my hospital bed, and they showed it like it was a coronation the whole day. I lay in my hospital bed in Greenwich District Hospital smiling. We brought London to a standstill.
Back to this fool. Yeah, that's a video on the New Cross Fire. There's a new documentary that actually came out this year on the New Cross Fire. I encourage you to YouTube that, the New Cross Fire. There's a new documentary out on the New Cross Fire. But you know, those people are still hurting. They're still feeling the loss. I remember it happening as a child. I remember when it happened as a child. So we could just be partying and someone could petrol bomb the downstairs and we could all burn to death. Yeah, I mean, I used to think about that when I used to go parties when I was young. Or not that I used, you know, when I used to go parties with my family, you know, when all my family were together, I used to think, I hope no one's going to firebomb downstairs. That's what I was thinking about when I was like 10, 11, 12, you know, and you go around families at Christmas.
And seeing people for the content of the character, not the colour of their skin.
Well, that's great. That's great, right to the point that...
Remember, this guy just quoted Martin Luther King, who white society murdered.
They get discriminated against because of the colour of their skin. Let me bring it. It's an interesting debate. Let's bring in David Grant. David, I guess there's a wider
speak some
issue
sense,
here.
please, David. I just picked you up.
Calvin was saying is
speak some sense.
It's too complex an issue to deal with in a performance. But there's a wider issue whether BGT, which is a big family entertainment show, should be at that time of night on a Saturday when their kids are all watching, should they be doing such a sort of, you know, charged
Come on, don't let me down, David Grant.
What do you think?
I mean, be a counter.
It's always been the role of art throughout history to be able to speak about many things, about love, about hopes, about dreams, but also about the current political, social, economic situations, whatever.
No way.
People are actually walking through in their real everyday lives. It's not just make-up, fantasy, and pie in the sky. The fact of the matter is, if you're doing a dance piece that's themed around 2020, and you're speaking about the coronavirus, the recalibration of the family, which was a big feature of it, you know, with even the little boy at the end saying, why did it take a sickness for people to come together? The idea of it was supposed to be, look at how 2020 has changed us. If you're going to do that and you're going to leave out Black Lives Matter, which is the most significant and talked about social movement, whether you like it or not, of 2020, then you're deliberately editing out reality. And it's not the role of art to edit out reality.
David, people might agree that art often is provocative and it's often political, but they might also think a Saturday night entertainment show is not the stage for that sort of art. And what would you say to that?
Hey, Susanna, I think if people look at it as a 4-minute piece, which it was, in 240 seconds, for 8 seconds, they depicted a police officer with his knee on someone's neck. If for 8 seconds out of 240 seconds, you're going to dismiss the whole thing because you don't like those 8 seconds, or you're uncomfortable with those 8 seconds, or you don't agree that those 8 seconds should even be significant, then you're completely missing the point, which is they are significant. And I think that Piers just illustrated really well in response to Calvin in saying, look, all lives can't matter until the lives of the least, the most oppressed, the most put upon matter. And for Calvin to say, well, that doesn't happen here, is a denial of reality. So,
of course it's a denial of reality. I just showed you the reality that I'm coming from. I'm coming from the reality of the Notting Hill riots. I'm coming from the reality of the New Cross fire. I'm a child of the 70s. That stuff was happening to my uncle. Do you know what I mean? Right? So, yeah, I've been living the black experience.
People are saying things like, kids shouldn't be forced to watch this. Let me tell you something. The majority of the kids who watch it have seen the George Floyd video because it's all over social media. I would contest that the majority of the adults who complained haven't actually sat through watching.
I agree with you, David.
I actually think that's the point, Calvin. I think most of the 20,000 who actually bothered to complain to Ofcom, I very much doubt most of them actually watched the performance. I bet if you asked them what was actually
so now we're leaving our racist speaking point out in the cold here. So we've got David Grant, who, as I said, well, I like you, David, but you're not Mr. Black Power now, are you? Come on, you wouldn't exactly say you're not Mr. Black Power now. So if we got you as the black guy who's not exactly Mr. Black Power, you have to admit that. Come on, you have to admit that. And then we got Piers being a devil, which means the other side is like something horrible and vile. Yeah. Let's introduce the horrible and vile.
I bet they would struggle to answer.
I love that people don't agree with me, so they mustn't have understood it or they mustn't have watched it.
No, actually, I don't agree with that general view. I think that we're having a respectful debate now, and I listen to what you've had to say. I'm putting to you a sequence of experience.
People are saying,
well, let me base it on my own.
Remember, all this does is make people of colour look bad, even though he's arguing a losing white supremacist point of view to a left-winger who's on the fence, saying, this guy's an idiot, right? To a right-winger, they don't care anyway because they're like this. Yes, I'm racist. No, I'm not racist. You're racist. And it's, what's that about? What's the stick in there? And they just go about their way, right? Yeah. Have you noticed the new riposte to being accused of racism is well, you're racist. Or you're using white privilege. No, but you're racist because you defined me as white. And so now, remember, racists have it so good. If you define them as whites, they will accuse you of being racist. That's how good they have it. That's how secure in the accusations of racism that they feel that they are. That's how secure they are. If you just mention you're a white man, they'll go, oh, you're being racist. You defined me by race. And do you know what they call educated people like me when no one else is around? Niggers. Yeah, you know that. Spook that sat by the door. Anyways.
I'm basing it on my own experience of Ofcom protests. When we were going after government ministers so aggressively, they've been boycotting us now since April. There were Ofcom, hundreds and thousands of Ofcom complaints about me.
So
day
Piers
in,
knows.
day out. And yet I could tell from Twitter that many of the people complaining hadn't actually watched the interviews. So I've been in the very position that I think diversity and I found themselves in. And I have to say, Calvin, I've also been repulsed by the racial nature of a lot of the stuff I'm seeing on social media in relation to this and the disgusting abuse that
So, wow, we've even got Piers sticking the booty going, you know your side, you know the people that sound like you, the stuff that I've heard is disgusting.
Ashley Banjo in particular has had for what I think was a powerful and courageous performance. That's unacceptable.
Of course.
Piers, can I
Well, let Calvin respond first.
Yeah, let Calvin
I
respond.
can completely relate. I've experienced quite a lot of racism myself too, especially since this Black Lives Matter movement took off, which is...
Right now, hold on a second. Do you know what racism he's experiencing? Now, the racism he's talking about is not from white people. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I bet you £1 million. The racism he's not talking about is not from white people. The racism he is talking about are from black people that can't believe how much of a coon he is being in public. Please, we got sophistry at work here. This is a black form of sophistry used by coons. When they say, "Oh, yeah, I've experienced racism as well," they're not talking about old-fashioned racism, deep south, nigger. They ain't talking about that racism. They're talking about black people who are disgusted at them. That is the racism he is talking about.
Why I'm so against it, because it is stoking up racial tensions where they didn't really exist to begin with.
Where they didn't. Let's go back. Listen to this fool again.
A lot of racism myself too, especially since this Black Lives Matter movement took off, which is why I'm so against it, because it is stoking up racial tensions where they didn't really exist to begin with.
Right, now that's one of the horrific statements right there. That will make me want to punch him in the face if I ever see him. Frankly, right now you are being the devil. Now you've gone clear. You don't have a foot in black society at all. This is a straight up white supremacist. Straight up.
There are elements of racism in this country that we need to stamp out. But while we're seeing everything as racist, we're kind of undermining those actual racial issues that we need to...
While we're seeing everything as racist, we're not seeing everything as racist. We're seeing racist things as racist. But if you're a white supremacist, you like to take the piss out of things that people find racist. They'll go, "Oh, I've got a black pen. Is that racist?" He's so echoing. I mean, I've associated with all of these people before. I know the talk conversation. I'm a sound engineer. You don't think I leave microphones in places? My God, I hear conversations. This guy is parroting and echoing white supremacist sentiment to a T.
To address, and that's what BLM is all about. It's critical race theory. That's why I don't like.
Do you believe, Calvin, in your
critical
heart,
race
do you believe
theory? So even the thing set up by George Soros and the lesbians, which is negative to black people, is being doubly set up by the quote-unquote Illuminati puppet masters. And even underneath that, they know they have to take the flack from conservatives like this guy when they're secretly funded by conservatives, and they're pushing their non-masculine pro-pedophile agenda, if you ask me. I mean, it's a Trojan horse for pedophilia. That's what I think the LGBT movement in the black community is. I'll say that 100 times. I've got no compunction. I have got no problems with just saying that whatsoever.
In this country, tolerant though it is, certainly by comparison to many other countries, do you believe that there is genuine racial equality across the board for black people in this country?
I think everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed in this country. Absolutely.
No, they don't. No, that's just not true. I mean, I think everyone. No, that's not true. He doesn't look old enough to have done anything by himself as he set up a company, as he run it. I mean, right now he's just a talking mouthpiece with an opinion, and he's a paid talking mouthpiece with an opinion, and he's a dangerous one, inserting himself into a conversation about blackness that he has absolutely nowhere near being. I wonder, can I put contracts out on people?
Absolutely, it's a fantastic place to live, which is why I live here. You know, it's a great place. I don't think we need to kind of say it's a racist country or there's institutional racism. Or...
Wait, hang on a second. The McPherson report said the police was institutionally racist. If the police are institutionally racist, I've just done 20 years in a London school. London schools are institutionally racist. If there is any other institution in and around London, and I know there are a few, there's a very high likelihood that they are institutionally racist. I know that from Law Lord report. I know that from 20 years of experience. And the thing is, up until now, read between the lines. The reason why people like that get away with saying this, and they feel that they are comfortable enough to get away with vocalizing this level of coonery, is because there's no punishment for it. Right? There's no punishment for it. There's certain, like, you gang guys are quick to stab and beat the crap out of someone from another manor. right? Someone here is disrespecting your entire race. But you want to chase someone down from Edmonton being in Tottenham. You want to chase someone down Broadwater Farm strolling into Wood Green. That dumb shit. At a certain level, we're going to pull the ladder up. Anyone still participating in that dumb shit is on his side. Is on his... Oh, I started to rant there for a second. I lost my train of thought for a second. Let me go back.
Do you believe that there is genuine racial equality across the board for black people in this country?
I think everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed in this country. Absolutely. It's a fantastic place to live, which is why I live here. You know, it's a great place. I don't think we need to kind of say it's a racist country or there's institutional racism or anything like that. There are elements of racism that we need to address and we need to stomp out.
I'd be very interested to know what those elements are.
But we're not on the same level as America. It's completely different over there.
The majority,
Right. So once again, he's a born yesterday black advocate. He was born yesterday. So the New Cross fire didn't happen in his mind. Okay, the killings of black people in Notting Hill and the race riots at Notting Hill, they didn't happen. That's not part of that's not part of his legacy. I wonder which black man contributed the worst part of their radiculation towards that.
The majority of football stars in the Premier League are black. How many black chairmen or owners or managers of Premier League clubs are there currently?
Well, even the Premier League are saying, look, we're not going to use Black Lives Matter as a slogan anymore.
I'm just asking you.
Oh, God. And here's the thing. That argument style works with white people. It works with white assuredness and assumed superiority. It doesn't work with your black ass, i.e., you've been asked us a question and you're going to relate that question to something else and give a total different answer to the question that we asked. That's not going to fly, person of colour.
Well, even the Premier League are saying, look, we're not going to use Black Lives Matter as a slogan anymore.
I'm just asking you. I'm asking you a factual question. You say there's equal opportunities. I'm just saying that in a sport now dominated by brilliant young black players, how many owners, chairmen, and managers in the Premier League are actually black?
But you're talking about equal outcomes, not equal opportunities.
No, I'm talking about the...
He argues like a overprivileged white barrister in retirement who can do no wrong. That's who he sort of sounds like, and he is never wrong because he is the king of his domain and he owns the house and he pays for everything. Therefore, he can exude this level of arrogance. That's the only way that happens, where the people in your social sphere have to tolerate your bullshit. That's that level of arrogance.
But you're talking about equal outcomes, not equal opportunities.
No, I'm talking about the lack. I'm actually suggesting there's a lack of opportunity.
Right.
A lack of equality, because otherwise there would be, in a sport now dominated by black players, there would be black owners, chairmen and managers, and there aren't any. And my point is that is unequal. And it's that kind of thing that may not be overt racism, but subliminally we have a long way to go, right?
So, what I'm hearing Piers say is, look, our racism is working fantastically well. Read between the lines. He's saying, look, how many managers and owners are there? Look, our shit's on point. Yeah, we're locked down. We're doing really well. Thank you very much. That's what I'm hearing from Piers, right? So, so how many of them are there? We got these. The answer is none. The answer is none, right? The answer is none. But then he would have to admit, this yellow thing here would have to admit that white supremacy is working perfectly. He's not there to admit white supremacy is working perfectly. He's there to deny it.
David?
I totally agree. I mean, Calvin, I completely respect your right to have your own opinion, but nobody can have their own.
Oh my God! Did you see the cup that he's drinking out of? Did you see the cup that he's drinking out of? And I like this. I like this David Grant statement that he's about to make. I mean, I respect your right to have an opinion. Yeah, but listen to this.
Calvin, I completely respect your right to have your own opinion, but nobody can have their own facts. And the fact is, that black kids are 7 times more likely to be stopped by the police, twice as likely to be given custodial sentences for the same offence, 3 times more likely to be thrown out of school and excluded. These things exist. Legislation says we're all equal. The administration of legislation is not equal.
Hey, you know what? Give me David Grant's address. I'm going to post him a BlackBerry, yeah? With Black Lives Matter fist. Go on, David.
And so, people who have come up and said, this is wrong, have highlighted something that probably the majority of people, because they're not affected by it, weren't even aware of. So for you to say it's caused racism, it hasn't. What it's done is it has brought to light stuff that's been hiding in a dark corner, and people who don't like what they're seeing are objecting to it.
Yeah, and I think that's what Ashley Banjo was absolutely trying to encapsulate.
And I don't think it's incompatible to say
they're
that
controlling the mic. They cut off David.
The Black Lives Matter organisation, which has a lot of political views, which you may not agree with, but that the hashtag Black Lives Matter, which actually is short for Black Lives Matter as much as anybody else's, really, is what it means.
Hold on a second. Piers just went in. Oh my God. Piers just went in. Piers even made the Piers even distinguished between the Black Lives Matter organisation, which you might not necessarily agree with, which is, hello, did I not just say that earlier on, which I don't agree with because of the misandry and the lack of focus on straight black men. I already said that. And even Piers makes the nuance and says, look, I mean, you know, there might be this Black Lives Matter organisation, but I mean, come on. I mean, the slogan, the hashtag, I mean, how can you object to that? Which is bloody true. Which is kind of like what I say as well.
You may not agree with, but that the hashtag Black Lives...
Sorry, let me get back. Let me do that again.
Ashley Banjo was absolutely trying to encapsulate.
And I don't think it's incompatible to say that you can have concerns about the Black Lives Matter organisation, which has a lot of political views, which you may not agree with, but that the hashtag Black Lives Matter, which actually is short for Black Lives Matter as much as anybody else's, really, is what it means. If you can't sign up to that, then you're part of the problem. Anyway, look, it's a very interesting debate.
And then he shuts him down! And then he shuts him down! Oh, Piers gets the last word in and shuts down this. Oh, that's an embarrassment. This is embarrassing, man. This is embarrassing. Right, so anyway, just to recap, obviously I'm going to address it. What did I say? I said they're going to be wheeling them out, didn't I say? But in terms of, if nobody knows the talking points, I just have to bring up one or two things in terms of what Leo Mohammed was talking about earlier on, the origins of Carnival. Remember, there was the New Cross Fire. That was the racist attack that killed over a dozen black people in one go. That's the legacy that I'm coming from in terms of, we've got Stephen Lawrence, my goodness, then we've got all the police killings, you got Christopher Aldridge, you got Brian Douglas, Wayne Douglas, you got Cherry Gross, you got Joy Gardner, you know, that's just off the top of my head, and many, many more. Okay, so, you know, that's me unscripted off the top of my head. These people are getting away with it because they feel that they're not going to be punished in wider society. His wider society is white. But are you going to tell me that the kids at the time, the men that killed Stephen Lawrence, you telling me that they haven't associated around any black people in the last 20 years? Are you telling me there's no black people that know Stephen Norris on A Court? You telling me there's no black people that know them? I'm sure there are. There's black people that know this thing. You got George Zimmerman running around, but all the gangbangers that you got in America, but you got George Zimmerman coming around. What? No one's reached out and touched that yet. I would be very careful doing this shit because you got people that right now are in forever families. Good for them, right? But they're in forever families because that's as extreme as that's the furthest that people have seen us out there at the moment. There's people that are way past that. Yeah. For instance, I know people who just moving to America just so they can join NFAC. Straight up. Moving to America just so they can join NFAC. Moving to America so they can join NFAC so they can go wherever Grandmaster Jay is gonna take his people to, which I'll probably go to as well. Fuck this shit. I want to be out if I can. Let's leave this guy to stay with the people that love him, who are, for the most part, white.
Oh, there used to be a time we'd see somebody like you singing, clowning, yassa bossing, and we wouldn't do anything. Folks like that. You were good. Homie kind of nigga. When they needed somebody to mistreat, call a name or two, they paraded you. Reminded them of the good old days. Not no more. The day of the Geechee is gone, boy. And you going with it. We can't let nobody go on believing we all fools like you. Waited a long time for you, boy. But I got you. I put 2 Geechees in jail in Camp Campbell, Kentucky. 3 in Fort Huachuca. Now I got you. One less fool for the race to be ashamed of.